Since I was about 4 years old, I learned I was attracted to the idea of women dominating men, and I had fantasies about my teachers doing this. I also learned that I wasn't really sexually attracted to women. I've always been romantically and physically attracted to women, but I've never been sexually attracted to them. And the idea of sex had always been really intimidating to me. I've had multiple opportunities to have sex, and I've always said it was because I wasn't ready. But I also knew I couldn't physically do it. And we were in the middle of the act, and I just couldn't do it, even though I really wanted to. And even though she pretended to dominate me, I still couldn't do it. So because of all this, several friends, straight and gay, have constantly tried to convince me I'm gay. And I'm just in denial about it. But I know that's not true because I really, really like women. But multiple gay friends have heavily tried to persuade me, even though I've set clear boundaries and told them repeatedly that I'm not interested in it. One gay friend used to show up at my house at 2 or 3 a.m. repeatedly, uninvited, and tell me how he desperately wanted to suck my cock. And on one night he got into my bed and refused to leave. Another friend would show me sexual videos about homosexuality and coming out repeatedly, and he talked me into giving me massages because I took a massage class and multiple people said I'm really good at it. He'd act like he was getting off by it too, and it made me really uncomfortable. And then one night we shared a hotel room and a bed to save money. He tried to give me a hand job while I was sleeping. I also had 2 straight friends break into my room when I was passed out one night years ago, and one tried to stick cardboard up my ass while another friend filmed it. I was yelling for them to stop, and at one point I flipped over on my bed and you could see my penis in the video, and the 2 refused to delete it, and they kept showing it to dozens of different friends, men and women, for months. A few friends have also suggested I might be asexual, and at first I didn't think it was possible, but the more I've read up on it, I've learned I actually do fit this definition. They're called Aces for short.
So, my name is Aidan. I'm 21 years old and currently about to graduate with my bachelor's degree. As far as when I kind of realized that I was asexual, I think I heard about it, or I discovered that it was a thing that people could be when I was around 15 years old. And I had always kind of assumed from then on that probably that was the area that I was going to fall under, though I didn't officially give myself that label at the time, just because I was like, oh, well, I've never really been in a relationship, I've never been in that context, so I can't really say, can't knock it till you try it kind of thing. Like, I didn't feel like I had the right to call myself asexual before I had actually tried to be intimate with anyone. And that was just my idea at the time, but I always had kind of a suspicion that that was how it was going to turn out. And so I got involved in a relationship when I was 16 after that. A really long-term relationship, 3.5 years. I mean, not super long, but like long enough for a teenager. And that was my first time in that context at all. Like, I had never had any flings before that. It was just bam, sudden long-term relationship. And so I really got to explore my feelings around that, and my suspicions were kind of confirmed to where, yeah, I don't really think that I'm feeling what this other person is feeling, and I don't think I'm feeling what I see in the movies or as portrayed in, music. Our culture is kind of inundated with this idea that you're gonna have a certain feeling around someone or about life in general, and just like being disconnected from that and from this other person. That kind of validated my suspicions that I fall under this category of person. And yeah, that relationship ended, and it's like, okay, probably not a good idea to do that again. I did it again, but that was on me.
We're queer, and we are also here. We're ace, we're queer, and we are also here. We're here, and we are also here. We're ace, we're here, and we are also here. Aces.
Jennie Osa. I am a fabulous ace in Portland, living my best life. I'm just starting to figure out what my sort of ace identity is, but I have I've never felt so much relief by finding some sort of label for myself. It actually made a lot of sense for me. And I started talking to my friends about this, telling them, I think I finally figured it out, and they all said, yes, this makes so much sense for you. So I'm feeling pretty secure in being asexual, I suppose, but I have so many questions for myself.
I'm 60 years old, and I just discovered 13 years ago that what I was had a name, and it is asexual. When I grew up, I had crushes on guys, like all my friends, and that started around puberty, junior high, and on up through high school and college, and the only difference between my friends and me is that as soon as the guy started liking me or tried to hold my hand or kiss me, I immediately wanted to drop them. Suddenly, I just wanted to be friends. And that went on all through high school and college. And until I was 22, I think. Well, it was after I graduated from college. I met a guy who was an amazing person and still is. And he and I were a really good match for each other. And he was also the first guy I was interested in who I had no crush on. So that was very different. And he was also the first guy who could kiss me or hold my hand. And I didn't want to drop him immediately. I can't say it was the same kind of experience heterosexual people have when they kiss, because my friend asked me, how was your first kiss? And my answer was, well, it didn't gross me out. That's not the normal answer you get. If this had been like maybe 30 years in advance, like up to now, in the 2000s and 2010s, instead of back in the 80s, perhaps she would have said to me, Jill, have you ever thought that maybe you're asexual? But she and most of my friends and family said, instead, just wait. When you do have sex, it's going to be fantastic. It's the most amazing experience in the world. Before that, people had told me, just wait until you find the right guy. Well, I figured this must be the right guy because he could kiss me and do other things with me, and I was okay with it. I didn't want to run away. And so we got married, and we had a great time. We were a very good match, except in this one area. And for the most part, near the beginning of our marriage, I was tolerant. I learned later that the spectrum of asexuals goes from tolerance to hostility and repulsion. And I'd say the beginning of our relationship started with tolerance. But after some decades, it switched more to hostility and repulsion, and there was a lot of tension. And every night I knew that he would want sex and he knew that I would not want sex, or at least I thought he knew that. And so there was a continual tension. If we had had a regular heterosexual relationship, I think our marriage and our interactions and so many things would have been different. I think it would have just brought another dynamic to the relationship that would have been so much more supportive of everything we did together.
is Airann Rose. I live in Portland. I'm a writer. I have a day job doing healthcare paperwork processing, and I've known that I was asexual since 2012, but it took several years to really confirm it. I'm trying to figure out if I'm aromantic or not. I'm not very romantic, but I have been very romantic especially in my 20s. I'm 36 this month, so I'm not sure if me not being very romantic is due to age and cynicism, or if I've always been aromantic. But right now I'm guessing that I'm hetero-romantic and just not very romantically motivated.
My name is Strom. I'm a concert photographer, and I also identify as an asexual. Well, I'm a new person to the group. I just recently found out about this category just within the last year, and I feel that I identify with it just because I'm no longer really interested in dating. I've tried some apps. They just get me really full of anxiety, and I think about being with another person and actually having like physical contact with them, and it is very uncomfortable for me to think about actually giving up myself to another person. And I feel that I am new to this group because of traumatic experiences. I don't feel that this is something that I was born with. I feel that being romantic and intimate with someone is natural for me, but just because of lifelong of traumatic experiences has just really made me withdraw from being in relationships. And so I've been in several relationships. I've been married and divorced twice, so I have tried to do what society wants us to do, and get married, and we're supposed to have the house and the kids and all of that, and I tried that track and it just didn't work out for me. I come from a normal middle class white family. I've got two parents that are still married. I've got a brother, and on paper and everything we're all normal, but unfortunately I kind of feel my foundation and my family wasn't maybe the best. To me, being in a relationship with someone was sold as something that you have to do, and marriage is this thing you just find whoever can tolerate you. You have this dysfunctional relationship with someone, but it's just whatever guy can tolerate the woman, and that's what a marriage is all about. So I tried that, and it didn't really work out. We argued a lot. Now that I am no longer married and I'm just by my lonesome, and I've been divorced 3 years, and I've tried to get back on that horse and do some relationships and try some dating. I don't know, now that I'm older, and it just seems like I'm apparently too old to date or something, and so I've just noticed this trend of no matter what age the guy is, he could be 50, they are always looking for the young college freshman, and so I've gotten dumped a couple times for the young college freshman, and that doesn't make me feel very, very good as a person. And so trying to get back on that horse and trying to date again and trying to have some positive self-esteem has been very difficult. It's just really hard for me to find someone and pursue them and go along the relationship track, just because I don't even know what I'm attracted to anymore. I never really did. I just spend all my love on my dogs. I have 2 pugs, and they're my little family, and I have a male and a female pug, and the male his name's Riley. He's 14 and he's been with me for all 14 years, and I call him my boyfriend. I say, you're my boyfriend, you're the man of the house, and I love him very, very much, and I feel very content with just having my pugs and coming home to them and loving them and spending time watching movies and cooking dinner and dating my dogs. But that's weird in society today. Society still wants people to go out and date, and so I have friends who are on dating apps, and they talk about the dates that they go on, and they're like, oh, we got to get you somebody, and you're so cute and so attractive, and why can't you you need a guy, and I'm just like, oh, and they take me, we go out to like bars, and they show me guys on apps, and I'm just like, I just don't want any of this. To me, when I just see the guys at the bar or on the apps, I'm just like, they just look gross to me, because I'm just like, all I just envision is just guys just wanting one thing for me, and then if I don't give it, it doesn't really matter if I give my body to them or not, they're still gonna pass me over for the college freshman. So, yeah, a lot of apprehension there, and being kind of like the odd one out in my lady group of friends where they're on apps and talking about dates and everything, and I'm just like, that's not interesting to me. Here I want to talk about the news and things that probably senior citizens talk about. That seems more interesting to me. I don't want to talk about dudes and relationships because I'm just not interested anymore.
I'm outdoor for Xander. I've known I was ace for like about 8 years now. Like a lot of people, I did not know it existed. I just thought I was, a prude and, abstinent and whatever. That's why I was so uncomfortable with the concept. Obviously, then I found out about asexuality and that identity, and that really honestly helped me, even socially. I didn't feel as uncomfortable interacting with people because I realized where my intentions lied. I currently have a partner who is not asexual, and I didn't think I was ever going to get a partner. I did think I was aromantic also. I think that was more out of necessity because of how hard it is to find a partner when you're asexual, especially if you don't want to just limit yourself to other asexuals. Finding someone who really respects that is honestly a lot more concerned about it than I am. It's a respect I did not think that would be accessible to me. Moving to Portland and finding such a really active and friendly ace community was also really helpful. I'm a bit active in the kink community, and a lot of people have the assumptions of, it's all about sex, it's all about, that kind of physical, intimate relationship. I think that's where I mostly get to educate people, is that there is an aspect to it that doesn't require you to have sex or sleep with somebody, that there's a lot about it. It's so an emotional connection.
I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life, and as I reflect back on this, I'm realizing that almost all of this trauma was because of a misunderstanding of a sexual orientation for myself. I don't know if you've ever heard the term het lag, but I saw it, it was a typo the other day I saw online. It was jet lag, but it was het lag, and it was however long it took you thinking that you were a heterosexual before you figured out that you were ace. And for me, it was a pretty long time. I'm focused now more on the future for what this means for me. As I've been reflecting on the past, I've been reframing things in terms of that wasn't just this horrible disaster that happened, there was a reason for it. And now I know the reason, so I can move on. I'm hoping that people in my past will be able to potentially reframe things that way as well. I used to be married. I experienced quite a bit of sadness about the loss of that marriage, to be honest. Because I'm pretty convinced he thinks that I didn't love him. But there's not a lot that could be farther from the truth. I didn't really understand how he could think that I didn't love him, but now I'm seeing. I guess I just didn't know how aloes worked. And there's a pretty big misunderstanding there. A lot of sad things came out of me not knowing this about myself. For me, I'm gray sexual and proud. Still trying to figure out if I'm aromantic, panromantic. Am I agender? Who knows? I don't know. That's gonna be my next adventure to try to figure out. It's kind of nice that I get to be the one to figure that out, to decide that.
Hi, my name is Zachary Feldman. I'm 20 years old, living in Portland, Oregon, and I'm asexual. It took me a while to figure it out. I know from experience and from talking to others that it's not an identity that a lot of people find easily. It isn't discussed as much as a lot of other identities, and it's hard to know for sure that you're not experiencing attraction or that you just haven't found the right person yet. If you're straight or gay, you have a crush, you're like, this is who I'm attracted to, and you can know. But when you're asexual, or ace, as I like to say, you can always keep telling yourself, maybe I'm a late bloomer, maybe I haven't found the right person yet. So it took me a long time to realize that I was ace, but my life has been better now that I know, especially knowing that there are other people who experience it. I'm also aromantic. I've never been sexually or romantically attracted to anyone. Not looking to have sex with anyone, not looking to date anyone. I'd prefer to have close friends who I can spend time with, watch shows together, talk about stuff, and go on dates.
My name is John, and I've identified as asexual since about 2012 when I learned about the idea. I have a subcategory of asexual orientation that is demi-gray and pan-romantic. And I believe that my tendencies throughout my life are attributed to my upbringing and never having felt that sex was ever necessary for me. Finding people now that are aware of the idea, it's mostly younger people, and older people are not familiar with it as an orientation. It's not a choice, it's a tendency, and even though people are flexible, for me, the older I've gotten, the more selective and specific any such sexual expression has to be. I'm hoping people can learn more about people who identify as asexual and not think there's anything that needs to be fixed with them. They're just people like everybody else with their own individuality.
Like being an asexual, you know, you're the odd one out. You know, there's this conversation that everybody talks about relationships. It doesn't matter where you go. You can just stand around 5 minutes and you're gonna hear someone talking about male-female relationships, or whatever type of relationships, you're gonna hear it. And when you're just like, I don't think that's important, because there's so much more to life than just throwing yourself trying to find another person that likes you and accepts you and is gonna be committed to you. I mean, just trying to find someone that's going to be committed to you for, just even like a full day. Just trying to get someone to like respond to you, it's just ridiculous. So that's why it's just like, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm just going to enjoy my life, taking care of the things that I feel that's important. And that's career and my pets and my family. You know, the mere thought of having someone, another person, a male, in my space, in my bed, freaks me out. Like, that's my bed, that's my space. Like, I don't want you there. because I've just been disrespected so much that it's just, I don't want to have a no guy rule in my house. Like, I don't care. Even I'm a photographer and I do headshots, and still it's like, sorry, if you're a dude, you can't come in my house and do headshots. I have to meet you at an off location. Just no dudes at all are allowed in my house.
My name is Hayley. I am 22 years old and I'm on the A spectrum. I've pretty much known about it since I was probably about 12. I didn't know about it specifically, but I knew that I just didn't want much to do with relationships. I'd been in a couple, even though they might not know specifically that I'm ace, but they pretty much knew where I stood. What I really liked about learning about the A spectrum is I did have a lot of anxiety about where I stood in my orientation, and I don't know, just kind of like grasped it at me for years. As I started getting more into the ace community, it just kind of, I don't know, that I didn't have to fit other people's stereotypes, that I didn't have to get in a relationship, I didn't have to be intimate with people if I didn't want to. I already was kind of assertive, but I still had my doubts, and it just kind of like gave that extra community backing to like, no, I am in the right, no, I'm not just being selfish. And it's been really important. There's a lot more emphasis sometimes in that community that it's about attraction and only attraction, and I get that because some people, they are more like sex favorable and they still consider themselves asexual, or other combinations thereof. I mean, think about someone who say is gay or something like that. They want to have a relationship with someone of the same gender, so that's how they know. Or they don't want to be in a relationship with someone of the opposite, so that's how they know. It kind of simplifies things, and sometimes it's not always that simple, but for some people it is, and it gets too technical if you're just like, oh, well, technically it's only this, technically it's only that, and it just, a bit of a head game to some degree. It's funny because when you go through the community, and even myself, it's like, a lot of the ace people, they're almost like spend years definite, like, no, I'm right, this is how everyone is, and it's like, wait, no. A lot of people are different, and my view is not universal. So yeah, it's a bit different, but I don't know, I think as long as you try to have strong interests and strong support system, it's shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Hello, my name is Amalia. That sounds like a job interview, my bad. And I'm 28, and I moved back to Portland a year ago, and I enjoy traveling. That's what I like doing a lot. I like traveling. But I'm going to school for history, so I can teach history, and that's fun. I became a part of the ACE community when I came here to Portland a year ago. And that was kind of big for me because I'd never really been part of a subcultural group. I've always just kind of, tried to not make too many waves, and I've always just kind of done my own thing. But I wanted to try and meet other people who might, kind of explain stuff and feel similar ways, so I didn't quite feel so weird against all the popular media and stuff. And so it's been fun meeting other people who also are confused by weird media common things. So it's been interesting being back here in Portland.
So how I found out more about myself was that I was helping my dad go through all his old boxes of clippings and magazines and things that he'd saved for years and years, and we were trying to clean out his basement and throw them away. And I picked up a clipping from one of his boxes, and it was a New York Times front page clipping on asexuality. And I started reading it and looking at it, and I realized this is a thing. This is me. And it's a thing. I'm not the only one. There's all these other people here I'm reading about. And so that was enlightening for me. And I showed my husband, and we talked about it, and kind of continued on in our way. And then when my dad died in 2013, at the age of 90, I realized that I could live till 90. And I was coming up on 60, and I just thought, I cannot do 30 more years of this. And so I asked my husband to seek out women who he could have sex with. And I suggested Ashley Madison, and he created a profile. And the profile stated that he was married and loved his wife and did not want to leave her, so everyone knew that there wasn't a long-term prospect for them. And he had several successful relationships, and the most recent one was a more important and romantic and passionate and sexual sort of in-love relationship. And he and I are now living with that woman. She's moved into our house, and the three of us get along very well. And I like her, so I'm really happy that they're together, and I think it's working out well. So that's kind of my story. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Zoe, and I am asexual. I kind of knew that I was different since I was very young. I kind of shied away from sex until I was in my mid-20s, where I experimented with men and women, and I just kind of did that from my mid-20s until my mid-30s, and then just came to the realization that I am asexual after that, and I've just kind of gone from there.
So my name is Darion. I'm asexual. I've lived here in Portland for a couple of years now. I like punk music. I'd been in a relationship previously with someone who was very much not asexual, and it became a bit of a problem, and I just spent a lot of time feeling like I was broken, or like there was something wrong with me, or like, I owed that person something that I couldn't give them, didn't want to give them. Relationship turned bad. I got out, and I still felt very, like it was my fault, and then I found out about this word and this identity, and I went, holy crap, that's me. It's okay to be who I am, and this wasn't my fault. It was a big reassurance to me that it was okay to be who I was, and that there wasn't anything wrong with me. I am currently identifying as pandemi-romantic, which I sometimes abbreviate to pandemic for fun. So I have had romantic interest in all genders, but it's very rare, and it's never happened without, already being friends with this person first. It doesn't happen often even then, so, almost aromantic.
I'm not always a big fan of putting labels on myself, but sometimes it feels really powerful to do so. But when I looked at all the letters, LGBTQ, if I stopped there, I started calling myself queer, and I said, okay, I'm queer, this makes sense, but something didn't fit. Something about me, I didn't fit, because everyone was talking about who they are attracted to, who they do want to have sex with. They're like, well, I'm heterosexual because, I want to sleep with so-and-so, and I'm gay because I want to sleep with so-and-so. I'm like, I guess maybe I would if I really, really was like totally best friends with that person and lived with them for like 100 million years, and I just wanted to be extra close to them, but I couldn't call myself any of those things because I just didn't have that attraction. And there were a lot of tears in this, figuring out that I don't fit any of these labels because they're all about what you are. And it was like my label was about what I wasn't. I know a lot of aces talk about how people see them as like, oh, you're nothing then. And there's a lot of invisibility, I think, with asexuality and exclusion and invalidation. And even though I've only been calling myself this like out loud for 2 months or less, I have felt a significant amount of invalidation. It is crazy to me that I can tell people that I'm excited that I finally figured it out and they tell me that I'm wrong. That's nuts! So I've started replacing this. I've started telling people that I'm ace instead of queer. And I can call myself queer, it doesn't bother me at all. But I suddenly feel that label didn't serve to fortify my identity. It just kind of gave me a place to explore it, and now I'm finding that queer umbrella is pretty big and ace umbrella is pretty small. And it's nice to find a little cozy place where people actually use the same words and things to describe the same types of feelings. I have never experienced this before in my life.
I mean, I would have to say like the urges are there, like the sexual urges are there, but they're definitely more of like a fantasy. And, you know, I think about the physicality part of it, and it's like, no, I think I just like keeping it a fantasy. You know, after my second marriage, you know, it was just odd. It was just very, very odd because he wouldn't touch me. And I just found that to be very, very odd of like we're in a relationship and he wouldn't touch me. And so it kind of makes me wonder if, you know, he had some identity issues as well as like was, you know, I don't know. I think maybe he might have been, was he bi? Was he gay? Was he, you know, was he asexual himself? Like, was he doing the same thing that society, you know, wrenches down our throats? And so, yeah, he wouldn't touch me, and I was like, okay, we're supposed to be like intimate and like touching each other because we're married, and we would have conversations about it, and he'd be like, okay, I'm gonna try, but it was almost like he was scared, like I was a bear gonna bite his hand off, and so it was like I could see his hand coming, and I was like, are you gonna try to touch me? And he's like, I'm gonna touch you. And I'm like, okay, and I thought they was doing it just to be smart. But no, it never wore off. And then sometimes he would just come and he would just like go like this. And he would just do that for like, he would do that as long as I would allow him. He would just do that. Like on the couch when I was driving. And I'd just be like, is this how you're being intimate? Or he would just like rub my shoulder or my thigh or just something. And it was like a broken record. He just would like keep doing it until there was like my little pill clothes would start forming, and I'd just be like, that's not really how I would describe being intimate. I think that's just kind of, I don't know what you're doing there. Yeah, it's like I believe that my ex-husband had sexuality issues as well, but it's just something, you know, it's different for men as it is for women, and so I think he was like, well, I'm a man, you know, and I've got to provide for my family, and I've got to, you know, take all these steps and everything in life, and he maybe did want to be with the man because he did have some encounters with men. He would like, but he would kind of like joke them off, just be like, oh, you know, my friend just started walking around naked, you know, and he just would be like, oh, we were drunk or something, and kind of just like pass it off. You know, I just was like, okay, don't want to really think about it, you know, because he can do whatever he wants to do. But then when I started noticing all the odd way he was touching it, I was like, I don't really know what to do here, because I don't really feel that this is like a marriage, you know, like what you see on TV, you know, like the husband and wife and like embracing each other, and you know, like when the husband comes home from work and you know at the dinner table, you know, they love each other, and you know they're having a date, and all these iconic images that Hollywood has fed us about like what a relationship is. And you know, of course I wanted to like emulate that, and it was just like every time I would like try, it just didn't work out. It was just like awkward.
I'm Casey. I'm 20 years old. I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I realized I was somewhere on the ACE spectrum at about 17 when I was at an all-ages club and I was going to hook up with a guy and realized I wasn't so interested as I thought I was. After that, it was a long while of trying to figure out where on the ACE spectrum I am, and I'm not quite sure, but I know I'm somewhere. I mostly just call myself Demi or Gray Ace. I do have a fiance, and we're somewhat sexually active, but I don't know, it's weird, because it's like, it's not really attraction. It's mostly just like, I'm in the mood, you're here, let's have a party. It's weird being ace because you are LGBT, but at the same time, it's not in the same way that other, you know, gender identities or sexualities are. You're really in a gray area of the queer community, and honestly, I know we belong, but I'm not really sure where to put us either. So,
sexual one, I think. Yeah, so that has something to do with it too. And he was like also like depantsed or something. I was depantsed too in grade school. I wasn't in grade school, but I was as an adult. Oh, yeah. So that's probably not as traumatizing, but it was still emotionally damaging. I don't remember it being super traumatizing, but then again, my head works differently. I've also had someone try to stick a paper towel cardboard roll thing up my butt and film it. Somebody tried to film that? Someone tried to stick one up my butt and someone else filmed it. Oh. And then they showed the video to others. I never heard of that one. Yeah, I was passed out in my bed and they broke in and started trying to stick this. They tried to sodomize you. Yes. And I flipped over and you could see my penis in the camera and I was yelling, "Stop, don't, stop." And they kept showing the video to everyone, men and women, and I asked them not to and to delete it, and they still kept showing it to people. Who were those? Oh, you probably shouldn't say. Friends. Yeah. My friends took this video and tried to stick this up my butt, and then they showed it to other friends and their girlfriends. You have some interesting friends, so. I have some traumatizing experiences in my life related to nudity and stuff like that, but I'm not afraid to get naked though. But I do have issues, obviously.
I think the worst part is just not knowing that this was a thing. So, I mean, for a bunch of years, I thought that there was something wrong with me. I grew up in a queer community, and I knew all about bisexuality, homosexuality, trans men, trans women, that was all known to me, but there was nothing about asexuality. And so I didn't know what it was, anything about it until I was 29. When I heard about it, read about it when I was 29, it was a big revelation. And now that I know more about it, I feel like a lot better. And I've met other people that are asexual or demisexual, and it's just fine. I think it's good in some ways because I've avoided a lot of drama that hetero people get into, or allosexual people get into, and so I'm glad to have avoided that drama. But I think the downside is that I don't really get any kind of intimacy or closeness. I feel like that's kind of a package deal with sexuality or allosexuality, and I haven't been able to find that without bringing sexuality into it.
Probably one of my best friends. I met her through the kink community, and she's also asexual. And it's been really helpful because she found out a lot older, like when she was 35 or something. She didn't even realize what asexuality was. And she had a horrible marriage because of it, which isn't uncommon for a lot of asexual people who don't find out about it until later, unfortunately. But it's been another great experience kind of helping her figure out around those like traumas of being forced to do things in a marriage, or forced, you know. And it helps me also talk to other people who maybe a lot of people don't realize that even if you're not asexual, you don't have to participate. And I guess being on the spectrum's really helped me help those people advocate for their own comfort levels. I love doing that kind of thing specifically. I love helping people understand their own boundaries and just kind of communicate better with everyone else. And I guess because I'm on the outside of those feelings, I'm able to more easily identify that someone else might be uncomfortable, even if they're not asexual. Because, you know, we live in such a sex-driven society right now. And a lot of people just think it's necessity.
So I've never been in a relationship, and sometimes I feel a little weird about that because it's like, you know, there's so much hype on, oh, well, if you've never tried a relationship, you've never been with someone, how do you know? But it really seems kind of obvious to me that I've never wanted to be in a relationship, you know, and I think a lot of romantic people are like, well, of course you want to be in one. No, I don't want to. You know, it's not like I'm scared. I just like being alone. I like doing my own thing. And maybe one day that will change. My mom thinks it will, you know. She's like, oh, one day you'll find a great guy who loves you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, I don't care. But right now I'm really happy being my own self and doing my own thing. And I think she doesn't understand that. She supports me, you know. She's like, I love you however you are. But I think she fundamentally just doesn't get it, which is kind of sad that she doesn't understand that I just don't care about, you know, dating and stuff. And I think a lot of romantic people, gay and not straight, you know, think kind of pity us. They think we're weird, that we don't want someone. And I think that's kind of dumb because I'm happy being alone. You know, you wouldn't make fun of someone, you know, who doesn't want to date. But then when it's someone who's like, that's a lifestyle, they're like, oh, well, are you broken? Do you need a doctor? Have you taken pills for that? It's like, why do I want pills for that? I'm happy. You know, and some people do change, you know. People find a person they like living with even if they're not sexually involved, or they are sometimes, you know, and I think that's kind of cool that ace people can like be ace for a while and then find a partner they do want to be involved with. I think it's kind of neat that there's that transition. I wish more people were accepting of that transition time. I don't think ace is a one and for all thing, you know, forever. You must swear off romance forever. I think that's kind of, what is this, a nunnery? You know? But I think it'd be better if the world were more accepting of transition phases. And that, you know, hey, you don't want sex for 10 years. Okay, sure. Maybe, you know, your old grandma, you want sex. Okay, have fun, grandma. I think it'd be better if we could just, you know, it's not a permanent state of self because nothing's permanent. No one's permanent. Our bodies change. Get over it. I think it'd be a lot less pressure on children too. You know, teenagers are so pressured into having boyfriends or girlfriends and going on dates in middle school and high school, and that's not okay. That's not okay on teenagers. And so I think a lot of people get pressured to make identities when they're not ready for them. You know, they have to say, oh, I need a boyfriend. I got teased a lot for not having a boyfriend in 5th grade. I was 12. I was still very physically immature, and I was pressured for not having a boyfriend. It was a very unpleasant time. I didn't have friends then much either. Maybe that was part of it. But I think if, you know, we didn't have that pressure of you need a boyfriend or you need a girlfriend, why aren't you dating? If we didn't have that pressure, maybe people wouldn't, you know, need to feel that they have to say, oh, well, I am this. They could just be whoever. I think that'd be a lot better. So I'm also kind of identify as queer, and being asexual is a big part of that for me, because asexuality is kind of a weird zone sometimes for me. Most of my friends are dating, you know, and they have relationships, and they have that drive to find someone one day, even if not right now. But I don't have that drive, and so it's kind of weird.
I'm also a bit of a writer, and it's been interesting kind of experiencing, you know, fiction and the writing community through this, you know, lens of being asexual, because a lot of people seem to have this expectation that unless your book is like for kids or something, that you're gonna have some of that stuff in there. I can't write that. I don't want to write that. And I don't think that my story needs it. And it's also made, you know, finding books to read interesting, because I wind up spending a lot of time, you know, in the young adult section, which is a great section. You know, there's some amazing authors there. Tamara Pierce, Philip Pullman, you know, there's all sorts of amazing writers who are put in young adult and who want to write young adult. But whenever I, you know, go into the adult section, it's kind of like, am I about to get surprised by something I really don't want to read right now? I sort of wish that we had a better community and, you know, some kind of database or something for, like, finding out, like, is this book gonna have a whole bunch of penis all of a sudden? Or, you know, whatever. And also, again, as a writer, you know, less of this idea that, you know, you need to include sex or even romance in your stories. I do write romance occasionally, but yeah, and also, I mean, just the idea that, you know, affection needs to be leading to that in order to be valid, because, you know, you can have friends who hug each other, or friends who cuddle or whatever, you know, and it doesn't have to be sexual. So
I am 25 and I identify as non-binary as well as asexual. I don't really have a romantic orientation. I don't really feel it's necessary. I know a lot of people on the asexual spectrum feel the need to specify because it's such a different category, but I guess I've always just identified as asexual. I've never considered the romance part. I also host the After Dark Ace Meetup, which is a subset of the Pdx Ace group. It's like basically a completely different crowd. It's been really interesting. I'm meeting a lot of people. There's a whole aspect of everyone's a nerd, but then there's this aspect of aces that are really grateful to have a situation, I guess, where they can go party and get, you know, loose and be comfortable and affectionate without anybody expecting anything, which was the point of why I asked to host that offset. And I've met a lot of great people. I would love to see more people go to it. It's usually on Wednesday evening, so sometimes it's difficult, but we're planning to see if we can get another day. So I would love if more people got involved.
A good story that I would like to tell is about my coming out, which was done in a way I'm not sure I would choose to do. I realized I was asexual when I was in high school. I went to a private high school called Calvin Gable, where my mom works as a teacher. So it was either my sophomore or junior year. Our school had an all-school assembly on diversity, including gender, sexuality, race, economic status. And one of the activities they had us do was they listed off different identities and asked people to stand up if they identified that way. And I was sitting in the very back row of the assembly, and when they got to the sexuality identifiers, I wasn't sure what I was going to stand for. I hadn't really told anyone yet, but I was in the way back, so when they said asexuality, which I wasn't sure they were even going to say, I did stand up, and I didn't think anyone had seen me, but I later found out that several people had looked backwards. They had seen me, and my mom had been told by someone else what I had stood for. And that's how my mom found out that I identified as asexual, as well as some of my friends at school. I'm not sure that's the way I ideally would have wanted them to find out, but I was glad that they knew and that I shared it with someone. So at the end of that school day, on the car ride home, my mom shared a story with me of her own, of a girl she had dated when she was younger, and that she identified as bisexual, which I hadn't previously known about her. So that was a good experience, and we've grown closer around our diversity issues since then, which I'm really grateful for. And additionally, after that assembly, I started going to my school's queer affinity group and made a lot of new friends who are gender non-conforming or have sexualities other than straight. I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of those people. I've gone to Pride with some of those people. Yeah, that's been really great for me.
When I was researching asexuality, I learned about different types of asexuality. I thought I might be demisexual, which is where you can only feel sexual attraction to someone after establishing an emotional connection. I think that might be possible. And then there's also gray asexuality. You have very rare experiences with being allosexual or experiencing sexual attraction. For a long time, I thought that asexuality was the root of my problems with relationships. So I thought, maybe that's why I get ghosted a lot. I've compared notes with allosexual friends. Like one of my best friends is pansexual, and she gets the same problem. We both have experienced some other problems in relationships, and it made me realize that a lot of this stuff is just universal and has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. It's just about communication or compatibility in other areas. My sexual orientation or asexuality has been less of a problem than just other incompatibilities, like where we want to go in our lives, our lifestyles, our political values, or social values. You know, those things tend to be more important in my experience.
You know, of course, when I got done with the divorce, I was like, I'm gonna get all intimate and get on the horse and do it again. And so, you know, I found this guy, and yeah, he was very like romantic and everything, but it was like too much. And so then I was like the awkward one. I was like, whoa, like just get away. And he just was like over sexualized. And so then I just kind of felt like a puppet. I was like, what am I just doing this as like a rebound? I was just only with that guy for a couple of months, and then I just was like, dude, this is just like too much. It went from like odd, hardly ever touching, to now it's just like engrossing me. He just didn't understand that women don't always want sex, and so he just would constantly, so you're never horny, no. It's like, no, there's a difference. You don't go, like, you just don't like engross someone like that. So I took a breather, and then saw this guy in Oakland, and you know, I was really excited, but he was very obsessed with like being clean. I was really excited for this relationship, but I just felt like maybe his religion, there was too many rules for me, and I found that to be not very mentally helpful for me, trying to just like unhinge myself and have this romantic relationship that we're supposed to have, I guess. But there was just like a lot of rules. It was just such a bummer. It was such a bummer, you know, going from, you know, not being touched to like being over-sexualized to now I can be with this guy, but it's only like there's like certain rules, you know, like we can only be intimate, you know, at certain times, certain places. So yeah, I didn't really see that guy again. And now that I'm home and out in the wild, and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to get back on that dating horse, but maybe I should try to find a local, and not working out. I don't need to be in a relationship just because like society is wrenching it down my throat that I have to, you know, have a man by my side. Like, I don't have to do that. Like, what's society gonna do? What's society gonna do if I'm single? What are they gonna do? I don't know. Are they gonna garnish my wages? Are they going to take my house? Am I going to be homeless because I don't have a husband? No, nothing's going to happen if I don't have a husband or I'm not in a relationship. You know, I'm still going to eat food. I'm still going to pay my bills. You know, I guess the only reason why I would like to be in a relationship would be to help out with the bills. But at the same time, there's all these other things I would be losing as well. And so I'm like, you know what? I think I'd rather live paycheck to paycheck and live just scraping by the single lifestyle than trying to find someone to help with the bills and, you know, deal with all the relationship bullshit. All my love is for my dogs, and they are fine with that. They love that very, very much.
Hello, my name is Timothy Hellman. I'm 44 years old. I found out I was asexual about 3 years ago. Thought I might be asexual about 6 years ago when I first learned what that was. But I thought there were things that made me so I couldn't be ace. Like, I've always been really aesthetically attracted to women. I've had a lot of big crushes on women. And since I was a really young kid, like 4 years old, I've always been sexually attracted to the idea of a woman dominating a man. Ever since I saw it in cartoons, like the Flintstones, Archies, Porky Pig, those all have images of women dominating their husbands and things like that. And I used to fantasize about my teachers dominating their husbands. I was a virgin until just recently. I met a girl at a bar, an ex-animal rights activist, in December, like 6 months ago, and she took my virginity. But she had to do everything. I couldn't have done it on my own without her help. And we did it twice. I stayed at her house for 3 days in a row. And she kept wanting to do it, and I was able to do it twice. But after that, I couldn't do it again. And our relationship didn't work out, I think, primarily because of that. And I've dated women since then, and the relationships didn't work out because of that again. For some reason now I attract really sexually aggressive women who love sex, and I can't give them what they want, so relationships don't last for me. I've been labeled gay since I was young by many people. Friends have harassed me about it. Gay men have sexually harassed me about it, tried to get me into bed multiple times. I've been sexually assaulted by gay men and straight men trying to prove I was gay, or just joking around, they said. I'm just trying to finally be positive about it.